These 10 UK killers committed crimes so horrific they will never walk free. They're each doing a whole life order, meaning no release ever. These are their stories and their footage.
We did not find any murders. In all cases, death or injury were due to natural causes or just bad medical care.
Is this woman, a nurse by the name of Lucy Letby, who was born in January 1990, a serial killer?
Yeah, not a problem.
I'm going to put you in the back seat over here.
Hold on, man, so we can get the seat there.
Take a seat in there for me, Lucy. I'll move that seat forward a bit. Shortly.
Yeah, I've just had knee surgery.
So. Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, Lucy Letby was arrested on suspicion of the murders of, brace yourself, newborn babies in her role as neonatal nurse at the Countess of Chester Hospital up in Chester, North England. She denied the allegations, of course.
They told me that there had been a lot more deaths and that I'd been linked to somebody that was there for a lot of them.
Did you have any concerns that there was a rise in the mortality rate?
Yes.
Okay, so tell me about that. What concerns did you have?
I think we'd all just noticed as a team in general, the nursing staff, that this was a rise compared to previous years.
Well, according to a jury, a serial killer whose victims were all defenceless newborn babies is exactly what Lucy Letby is.
This was a cruel, calculated and cynical campaign of child murder involving the smallest and most vulnerable of children, knowing that your actions were causing significant physical suffering and would cause untold mental suffering.
But just who is Lucy Letby? Everyone always talks about how normal Lucy Letby seemed to everyone. She had a good circle of friends, a great social life, went on holidays with her colleagues at work. People liked her well enough. She had a bit of a fling with a married doctor. She murdered babies and attempted to murder them by injecting insulin and air into their bloodstream. Lucy Letby's murder trial lasted nearly a year. It finished in summer 2023 and Letby got 14 whole life orders. 7 for her 7 murder convictions and the other 7 for her 7 attempted murder convictions. And then in 2024, following a retrial relating to an 8th charge of attempted murder, she was convicted and received her 15th whole life order. The woman's 7 murder convictions make the woman, as at the time of this recording, the UK's most prolific serial killer of children. The woman is also one of the only 3 women in the UK doing a whole life order, the other 80 whole lifers of course being men. And of the remaining 2 women whole lifers, I'm about to introduce you to one of them. That story is coming right up. There are lots of people who say that Lucy Letby is a scapegoat. The deaths of those newborn babies, who I think were all premature, were due to clinical errors of other people.
We did not find any murders. In all cases, death or injury were due to natural causes or just bad medical care. There were serious problems related to medical care of patients at this hospital. There were problems related to teamwork and interdisciplinary collaboration at the Countess of Chester Neonatal Unit.
There were plausible reasons, very, very plausible reasons for these babies' deaths, and that there was a combination, if you take the totality of the 17 cases, there was a combination of babies being in the wrong place, delivered in the wrong place, delayed diagnosis, and inappropriate or absent treatment.
I can see Lucy Letby's story continuing to unravel for years to come. Before we meet our next monster, if I've got you hooked on the video so far, do subscribe, give the video a like, drop a comment when you're ready, and donate. Hit the thanks button below. I'll appreciate you.
Since his conviction for Sarah's abduction, rape and murder, Couzens has been convicted of further crimes of indecent exposure, one of which he had already been linked to while a serving police officer.
A cop who turned to murder.
And at the moment you're under arrest, okay? I'm speaking of kidnapping at this time. Okay, you didn't have to say anything, but no harm in your defence. You did not mention one question, something later on in court. Anything you do say may be given evidence.
Wayne Couzens was a Metropolitan Police officer who, on the 3rd of March 2021, down in Clapham, South London, stopped a random woman on the street whose name was Sarah Everard and who was a 33-year-old marketing executive, falsely told her that she was in breach of lockdown restrictions because this was in the time of COVID and that because of that he was arresting her. What he actually did was to drive her all the way down to Kent, grape her and then strangle her to death with his police belt. Only 5 days later, though, the police were at his home, placing him under arrest and interrogating him in relation to the abduction of Sarah Everard. Because Couzens was so wholly unprepared for being caught, he came up with the most ridiculous explanation of why he had kidnapped Sarah. He reckoned that he was pressurised into doing it by a gang that he owed money to. They told him that it was either get them a girl or have him and his family killed, and that he just felt he had no choice. Here is a brief clip of the stupid story that I've just said that he told the police.
Well, I am in financial shit, and I've been lent on by, I don't know who they are. They're a group, a gang, whatever, and they told me, right, I need to go and pick up girls and give them to them. There's a couple of names. I was told a place to take her. That's it. That is all I know.
There was a subsequent inquiry into the behaviour of Wayne Couzens during his career as a police officer, and it was concluded that there were so many missed opportunities to disrupt and halt the man's offending. He did things like flashing on a number of occasions. He was addicted to extreme pornography and tried to get his colleagues to watch it with him. He had a warning at one point for being excessively violent during an arrest. He went missing at one point. He was in loads and loads of debt, and when that happens, a police officer can be kicked out of the force because having money problems makes them more susceptible to bribery and corruption.
The inquiry has seen evidence that Couzens allegedly committed a very serious sexual assault against a child, barely in her teens, before his policing career even started. Problems with money also predated his career with the police. Couzens had substantial unsecured debt by the time he was arrested for Sarah's murder. At the same time, the Metropolitan Police Service were taking action to recover up to £15,000 that had been paid to him in error, and a year-long mortgage holiday was about to expire that month. It is alleged that on a number of occasions, Couzens tried to show friends and colleagues pornography, including some of a violent and extreme nature. It is further alleged that on at least 2 occasions, he shared unsolicited photographs of his penis with young women, and that he paid female online retailers to masturbate into clothes and send them to him. Since his conviction for Sarah's abduction, rape and murder, Couzens has been convicted of further crimes of indecent exposure, one of which he had already been linked to while a serving police officer.
As regards Couzens' acts of indecent exposure, did these serve as gateway offences for Couzens' subsequent act of murder?
The first of the offences in time involved A, who was cycling up a narrow country lane between Deal and Dover on the 13th of November 2020 at around 2:30 in the afternoon. Photographs of the lane in question show that it has a banked verge up one side with some woodland at the top. As A cycled up, a man stepped out from the trees. He was naked, energetically masturbating, his erect penis looking directly into A's eyes as he did so. From the photographs, he must have been less than 2 meters away from her as she passed. She could do nothing but cycle on, pedalling slowly up the hill past him as he continued to stand there manipulating his penis.
Mrs Justice May, the judge in charge of Couzens' sentencing for his acts of indecent exposure, who we've just been hearing from, implied that the man's having got away with those acts made him feel untouchable, which in turn gave him the sordid confidence to commit murder.
The fact that no police came to find him or his black car to question him about these incidents can only have served to confirm and strengthen in the defendant's mind a dangerous belief in his invincibility, in his power sexually to dominate and abuse women without being stopped.
Couzens got his whole life order in 2021. His appeal against that sentence that came in 2022 was swiftly dismissed.
Couzens seeks leave to appeal against sentence. In his case, we grant leave to appeal against sentence but dismiss the appeal.
Between 2009 and 2010, Stephen Griffiths, who comes from Bradford in Yorkshire, murdered 3 women: 43-year-old Susan Rushworth, 31-year-old Shirley Armitage, and 36-year-old Suzanne Blamires. All 3 women happened to be sex workers. Griffiths killed his victims with a crossbow and also claimed to have cannibalised any one or more of them, although that latter claim has never been proven. His act of giving the middle finger to the security cameras in his block of flats was just one piece of evidence that showed that he actually wanted to be caught, and it was all in order to gain notoriety. And yet, in his police interview, he showed no remorse or anything, and a lot of the time he acted very casual, as if murdering 3 people was a light-hearted matter. But when it came to saying why he did what he did, he was somewhat shy and reluctant to go into the details. He said he didn't know, which contradicts his whole demeanour from beforehand. As I say, waving his middle finger at the camera, leaving lots of clues. I think he left a phone or something of his on a train, wanting someone to find it, look through it, and then hand it into the police to help them catch him. That attitude isn't seen when he's asked why he did what he did. Just watch.
What were you setting things on fire for?
Well, to destroy DNA, but like I say, in such a reckless, crazy manner. I can't believe, mind you, I don't know, I think, like I said, caretaker perhaps had other things on his mind, but otherwise I can't believe, you know, with the smoke that must have been billowing out of the windows. Although I did keep them shut for a while as well, so that's why I got a lot of soot all over me, and eventually I got a breathing mask on. But
So, how would you know that the fire destroys DNA?
well, to be perfectly honest, I mean, that was something I always kept meaning to check up on the internet, but it was just an assumption that well, certainly I think the principle I operated on was, well, it certainly isn't going to enhance the quality of the evidence.
Why did you feel the need to kill her?
I don't know. I don't know if I'd say just sometimes you killed someone to kill yourself or kill parents. I don't know. That's like deep issues inside of me.
He got his whole life order in 2010, and while in prison he has attempted suicide on several occasions, but staff have always caught him in time. And in 2011 he went on a 120-day hunger strike, during which time he avoided contact with other people. But there is such a crazy irony to this guy's story. In 2009, he went to the University of Bradford to write a PhD in homicide studies. On that basis, if you're getting echoes of Brian Kohberger from over in Idaho in the USA and of Nassim Sadi from right here in the UK, you're not the only one. Griffiths has been attacked on a number of occasions in prison. On one occasion in 2024, he was knocked out by somebody who used to be a friend of his 3rd victim, Susan Blamires. And that's the story of Stephen Griffiths. Even when you've had a comfortable and happy upbringing, you can still become a mad woman who randomly kills 3 people for fun.
Looks good.
Thanks, Matt. That makes me feel so good. Real sexy.
This woman has just been arrested on suspicion of 3 murders and 2 attempted murders, and yet she's laughing and flirting with police officers, acting as if she's just been arrested for something like stealing a charger.
Not a t-shirt, it's a tent.
Joanne, signature from you that we've got your property.
Right, so what am I up for? Attempted murder and murder.
You've been arrested on suspicion of attempted murder and murder.
Attempted murder and murder, something. So going down for Sunday Rose. Excuse me.
This is, of course, the second of the 2 women whole lifers that I'm presenting to you, and 2, as I say, of the only 3 women doing a whole life order in the UK. This woman's story will leave you flabbergasted. The 3 men that Joanna Dennehy murdered in March 2013 were none other than her friends, her sexual partners to be exact. When she was little, Joanna Dennehy was a very kind, caring, sensitive girl, very close to her sister. She was a very academically gifted pupil who had aspirations of becoming a lawyer, until one day in her teens, for reasons that people just can't explain, she changed. She got into drugs, she got into drink, she got into sex. She ran off with a bloke who was a lot older than her that she came onto, had a couple of babies with him. Then that relationship broke down. She went to prison, came out, got in with some really, really dodgy characters, and then in March 2013 killed 3 people and tried to kill another 2. She said that the reason she did it is because she wanted to see if she was as evil and as cold-hearted as she thought she was, and that after she killed the first person, she had to keep going. It was moreish and she couldn't get enough. She was convicted in 2014 along with the 3 men, her so-called undertakers that had helped her, in particular by getting rid of the bodies. And in fact, Joanna Dennehy's killings were known as the Peterborough ditch murders because they dumped the bodies in a ditch out in Peterborough in Cambridgeshire. The 3 accomplices were given finite terms, and I think at least one of them has since been released. Dennehy herself got her whole life order in 2014. While she was on remand before the trial, Dennehy was housed in segregation at HMP Bronzefield, a Category A prison in Surrey, South East England. Prison staff found an escape plot in her diary at this point, which involved killing or seriously injuring a prison officer, cutting off one of the officer's fingers and using the amputated finger to fool the biometric system in the prison. Because of the plot, Dennehy was placed in solitary confinement from September 2013 to September 2015. She claimed that her isolation left her tearful and upset and led her to self-harm. In 2018, the woman requested permission to marry her cellmate, Hayley Palmer, much to the dismay of Palmer's family, who feared that Dennehy might endanger her. In 2018, both Dennehy and Palmer tried to kill themselves in a suicide pact, but failed. In June 2020, Dennehy was reported to be in a relationship with another prisoner, Emma Aitken, a 25-year-old who was serving a 12-year sentence for her part in the murder of a man whose body was dumped outside a social club. In May 2021, it was again reported that Dennehy and Palmer, the latter having since been released from her sentence, which was for robbery, intended to get married. In 2019, Dennehy was moved to Low Newton Prison in County Durham. On her arrival, she allegedly threatened to kill Rosemary West, the UK's only other female whole life order prisoner besides Joanna Dennehy and Lucy Letby. As a result, West, who, as I record this, is receiving end-of-life care, was moved to another prison. The government, though, denied that Dennehy had threatened to kill the woman. Our next murderer had a devoted girlfriend and a baby on the way, and ruined absolutely everything in a moment of madness, times 4.
I don't know what happened. Alright, come to me.
Well, like Nurse Letby, this killer is arguably another baby murderer.
Have you armed yourself?
Yeah.
You have?
Have you stabbed yourself, mate?
I can see blood on your hands.
Yeah. Anywhere else? Just my chest, 4 inches in with a bread knife. Can we have a look? And one on the stomach. I bled quite.
Right, do you want
to?
Yeah. No, just stay there.
I just don't want to be in front of everyone.
Alright, just around the corner.
Just walking wounded at the minute.
Alright, stand here. Stay here.
Right.
So
We're told, I know what's going to happen to you now, mate. Well, I know what's going to happen when we go to prison, obviously, but again. Why, have you done something to anyone else? Yeah. What have you done? I've murdered 4 people.
Damien Bendall committed his horrendous acts under the influence of drugs. He murdered, first of all, his girlfriend, who was pregnant with his child. Then he murdered her 2 young children. And then he murdered the school friend of one of the children who was staying over. This all took place in the Derbyshire town of Kilmarsh in September 2021. He also confessed to the rape of one of the children, a little girl. If you need any further convincing of just how remorseless and unempathetic this man is, straight after committing the 4 murders, he went out to sell his Xbox to get money for drugs. Before his relationship with his last girlfriend, whose name was Terry Harris and whose children were called John Bennett and Lacey Bennett, and Lacey Bennett was who the perpetrator raped, and she was 13 at the time. Bendall already had a violent past. He'd been accused of domestic violence by a previous girlfriend of his and had done time in addition for arson. When, early on in their relationship, Terry challenged him over his past, he promised never to hurt her or her children, but according to Terry's mother, Angie Smith, before murdering Terry, he had been behaving abusively towards her for months.
She seemed to watch everything she said around him. He was trying to stop her from coming to see us. Her friends were messaging me saying, we don't hear from her anymore, she doesn't speak to us anymore. My girl was not my girl anymore. He was controlling her.
Do you feel like this whole thing could have been prevented?
Of course it could have, yeah. She wasn't even consulted whether he was allowed to be bowed at her address.
Angie's grief for her daughter and her grandchildren is raw and real.
Lacey was a little ray of sunshine, little poser. John was a real mummy's boy, loved his mum. She loved them kids. Them kids were her world. It's just empty now. Everything's empty.
Bendall got his whole life order in 2022, but clearly hasn't given up his violent ways. As at the time of this recording, the man was due to stand trial in 2026 for the attempted murder of a fellow inmate at HMP Frankland, the man's forever home. In a cruel twist to this particular act of his, he attacked the inmate in the same way that he murdered his pregnant girlfriend, her children, and another innocent child, with a claw hammer. As we know, if he ends up getting convicted of attempted murder, it won't make the blindest bit of difference to the man's future. The man is already doing life without parole.
Hello. Morning. David, it's the police. Hello. We need to come and speak to you. Oh, yes.
Presenting hospital maintenance worker, husband, father of 4, burglar, PDF file, rapist and double murderer, David Fuller.
David, you're under arrest on suspicion of the murders of Wendy Nell and Caroline Pierce in 1987. Do you understand? You do not have to say anything, but it may harm your defence if you do not mention when questioned.
This December 2020 arrest of David Fuller, who was born in 1954 and comes from Kent, southeast England, was no less than 33 years in the making. The man's murder of 25-year-old Wendy Nell having come in June 1987, while his murder of 20-year-old Caroline Pierce came in November 1987. Taking place in Tunbridge Wells, Kent. Owing to the sort of place where each of the 2 victims lived, the 2 murders became known as the Bedsit murders. The acts of rape that Fuller was found to have perpetrated against both Wendy and Caroline most likely came after the 2 women died, which prefigures, if you like, the hobby that the man rapidly developed in his many years as a maintenance engineer at 2 Kent hospitals. Of the 102 corpses, all female of course, that Fuller raped and essayed in the CCTV lacking mortuaries of the 2 said hospitals, the youngest was but 9, while the oldest was 100. In the videos that the perpetrator made of these disgusting acts of his, he's seen placing his thing, let's say, inside the mouths, the A bleep USES, and the VA bleep INAS of these bodies. I am disguising certain words because of YouTube's decency policies. The man also used his tongue and fingers in his acts, graping and essaying some of the corpses repeatedly over a number of days.
There's some stuff stuck on the back of that one as well. I've got the body worn on it literally as it's happened.
What's that?
Well, on the back of his chest of drawers, it looks like he's got some hard drives in there, I would say.
Oh.
But they're stuck to the back of the chest of drawers.
Yeah, and then it's got number 28, born, died, hasn't put a date, photo, born, died, no thing, photo, no bit. Number 48, date of birth, date of death.
He's identified the victims.
Sorry?
Those are
Yeah,
the
well,
victims.
yeah, the ones who...
No, they are. They're the ones in there.
Here is how Fuller's mortuary offences impacted Nevres Kemmel, a woman whose only child, Azra Kemmel, 24, died in an accident on a bridge, her dead body becoming one of the many that the perpetrator graped.
I had spent 2 wonderful hours in the mortuary, sleeping with her, and that gave me some sort of comfort. Little did I know that my daughter had been violated prior to that day and in the evening of that day. So whilst I'm stroking my daughter's hair, sleeping on her hair, a man had crawled all over her skin, and there's me kissing and cuddling and saying my last goodbyes.
The shocking thing seems to be that he had access for 20 minutes, half an hour.
Well, I'll give you the details, Jason. The first time was 13 minutes, the second time was 15 minutes, and the day that I visited Azra and spent quality time, and my last time with Azra, was for 35 minutes.
This is the moment where the perpetrator sheepishly confesses to his acts of rape against the dead bodies held in his place of work.
I want to admit I am admitting the offences, but I don't really want to go into detail.
Yeah. Okay.
We appreciate that.
And what offences are you admitting, David?
As you've just described to me.
Okay. In terms of the sexual penetration of corpses? Okay. And do you know how many occasions, David?
No.
No. Have you been recording yourself doing those things? Recording yourself penetrating the corpses?
I admit that offences.
Yeah. Okay. What did you retain the recordings for?
I don't know either.
Okay. Was it for further sexual pleasure, David? You know, in the same way as somebody would keep pornography or things like that? Was it for further sexual pleasure?
No.
In the raid of Fuller's home, police found numerous images downloaded from the internet showing women and girls who'd been raped and or murdered. They also found no fewer than 4 million indecent images of you-know-what sort of people. As for the man's career as a burglar, this unravelled between 1973 and 1976, the man gaining dozens of convictions for that offence in that period. In December 2021, after his trial was cut short when he changed his plea to the charges of murder relating to Wendy Nell and Caroline Pierce from not guilty to guilty, Fuller got a whole life order. The two murders were, of course, the lead offences, but the man was also sentenced at this point for his mortuary-based hobby and for downloading indecent images of you-know-who. In November 2022, though, the man pleaded guilty to and was sentenced for a further 16 counts of necro thingy. As you can see, though, at this point, the man had nothing whatsoever to lose. Our next murderer is a serial killer who wasn't just evil, he was cheeky. He got the police to act as his undertakers.
Were you involved in administering any drugs or poisons or noxious substances to him?
No, I don't administer drugs to anyone or give drugs to anyone. That's done at the party boy.
Stephen Port, who was born in 1975, is not only a serial killer but also a serial rapist. Between 2014 and 2015, Port murdered 4 young men that he met online. He'd get them to come over to his flat over in Barking in East London, and there he would drug them with GHB, gamma hydroxybutyric acid, quite a well-known date grape drug, and then of course grape them. And all 4 victims died from an overdose of the drug. In the case of one victim, Paul inserted the drug, or rather injected it, directly into the man's you-know-what hole.
So did you have any involvement in the death of the male that we just spoke about a short while ago, Gabriel Cavari, Gabriel Klein?
No, I didn't.
At all. Were you involved in administering any drugs or poisons or noxious substances to him?
No, I don't administer drugs to anyone or give drugs to anyone. That's done at the party boy.
Might help if I show you a picture. I'll call this CRT. See, this is Jack Taylor. Do you recognise that, mate?
No. No, I just don't recognise him. I don't pay full attention to the guys' faces when I've paid attention to the parties. But I don't recognise his face.
So you don't recognise his face?
I do not know. No.
And I mean, that's Jack Taylor, so you don't recognise
No, I don't.
Jack Taylor?
No.
Paul reported the death of his first victim to police himself, pretending that he'd just found the victim, student Anthony Walgate, slumped outside his block of flats over in Barking, East London. Soon afterwards, though, he admitted that he'd hooked up with Anthony, but claimed that the young man had accidentally overdosed on self-administered GHB. The police didn't challenge this claim of Port, and even though they no less seized the perpetrator's computer, they didn't discover Port's online searches for the date grape drugs that he loved using and graping unconscious boys, searches that the man made just before hooking up with Anthony, because they didn't bother checking the computer. As regards Port's third victim, Daniel Whitworth, performing a forensic analysis of the bedsheet, which belonged of course to Port, that had been left with Daniel's body, would have led the police straight to Port since they had Port's DNA in their database. The police, however, failed to carry out one such forensic analysis. It took Port's fourth murder for the police to start investigating the series of murders. Port's fourth victim, 25-year-old Jack Taylor, having 2 sisters who did some diligent investigating of their own into their brother's murder, and who eventually got the police to actually do their job. Port got his whole life order in 2016. To this day, though, he apparently denies being a murderer. Our next murderer doing a whole life order, killed with no provocation and no motive, to the shock and horror of the whole country.
You're just going to be searched, mate. You're not under arrest. I just need to search you.
We've had the case of Wayne Couzens, a police officer turned murderer. Now we've got the case of Louis De Zoysa.
At 13, he was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. His lawyer argued the shooting was a result of an autistic meltdown.
When, on the 25th of September 2020, down in Croydon, South London, police stopped, searched and arrested 23-year-old data analyst Louis De Zoysa, they found that the man was carrying 7 bullets plus some cannabis. There was one other important thing that the man was carrying, though, that the police somehow missed.
Stand up, mate.
He's been a bit...
Go on.
I
think this is very I understand, stand up. So please leave. What? Can you please leave? I think I'm going to pass on. Okay, listen to me. My name's Matt, I'm the custody officer, right? I'm in charge. I'm not involved in the investigation. You've been arrested on suspicion of possession of bullets, ammunition and possession of intent to supply. Class B. Class B, anything else? That's it. Alright, your detention's not been authorised yet, but I can authorise a search of you under section 54 of PACE. Stand up. Mate, you're good enough to...
Matt, you alright? I want to take them! Matt. Right, I'll blow it! Matt. Stop it.
The 2 shots with which De Zoysa murdered Sergeant Matt Ratana came from the antique revolver that he was carrying on him, but as I say, the police missed it when they searched him on the street. Sergeant Matt Ratana left behind his partner and his child, and at the age of 55, he was only 3 months away from retirement. Of the 2 further shots that De Zoysa then fired, one got him himself in the neck and caused brain damage, as a result of which he's now in a wheelchair and can't communicate properly. Basically, he can't speak. When, at his sentencing hearing, he tried to use his physical disabilities as an argument for not being given a whole life order, the judge quite rightly pointed out that the man's physical disabilities are his own stupid fault.
On balance, I accept that you are likely to find prison more difficult than a neurotypical prisoner. I take that into account. Your injuries. After shooting Sergeant Matt Ratana twice, you fired 2 more shots. One hit the wall of the cell, mercifully missing the 2 officers who were bravely restraining you. The 4th hit you in the neck. This resulted in bleeding and a blood clot, which travelled to your brain and has caused some damage. It has also resulted in physical problems. It means you now use a wheelchair, and you have real problems with your communication, often using a whiteboard to help you communicate. It is entirely due to your deliberate and voluntary actions that you have those injuries.
De Zoysa got his whole life order in 2023, and then in 2025 his appeal against his whole life order was dismissed.
Get it down!
This is the moment in October 2021 when police arrested a young man in a church down in Leigh-on-Sea in Essex, South East England, for the murder of a prominent local resident.
Allowing you to go in and see David Amess.
Mate, we've got to stick our instructions as well at the same time. We've got a taser unit 1 minute away, so we're going to go in and take the taser.
Stand at the door. He's not right there. You can't go and stand at the door.
Can you show us, mate? Stay back there. Here on the left.
You can go and stand at this door. Yeah, go on. You can see what's names. You stand at the side. Yeah?
Mate, drop the knife.
Drop the knife down! Mate, drop that knife! Drop the knife! Drop the knife now! Mate, drop the knife! You can drop it! Mate, listen to me. Drop the knife. Mate, drop no, it's a... Mate, drop the knife! Drop the knife! Mate, you can drop the... Listen to me. Look, it's only going to go one way. Just drop that knife. Please drop that knife for me. Just drop the knife.
We'll talk about it.
You don't want to do this. Okay?
Mate, just drop the knife.
You can do this.
Mate, taser.
Get that, mate. Yeah, come on. On the floor now! On the floor! Get it down! Right, searching. Right, mate, at the moment you're under arrest for murder, alright? Would you like to say anything? In my armed offences, you do not mention when mentioned something which you later on in court. Anything you do say may be given as evidence. Do you understand me?
This now has stabbed. What's the man's name?
David Amess.
David Amess.
Amess.
Yeah.
Because it's been deceased.
Domestic or hate related in any
Terror.
way? Pardon?
Terror. I'd say hate, yeah.
On what basis? Racial, religious?
Religious.
We have been informed that you made a significant comment following your arrest, where you have made the comment, it was terrorist. Is that correct?
I think I said, what's it called? The nature of the crime, I said is terror. I think that's what I said.
Okay.
In the room where, with the lady, when I first came in, just speaking to her. Yeah,
So the nature of the crime was terror. Okay. Mr. Ali, is this a terrorist attack?
I mean, I guess, yeah, I killed an MP and I've done it. Yeah.
Okay. Have you planned, or were you planning any other terrorist attacks?
No, nothing like that, no.
Okay.
Ali Harbi Ali is an Islamic terrorist. In October 2021, he murdered Conservative MP Sir David Amess. He stabbed him more than 20 times while attending a constituency surgery. Ali pleaded not guilty to murder, but then didn't dispute much of the evidence against him in court. He had also plotted to murder other MPs, all in revenge against those, including Amess, who had voted for airstrikes against Syria. He got his whole life order in 2022. Before you ask, I don't get why people can't just move on when they've been dumped by their lover. The trouble is, neither could our next murderer.
Down! Do not move, you understand?
Sharp 2-4, stand by. You're under arrest on suspicion of murder. You don't have to say anything, but it may harm your defence. Do not mention any questions.
This murderer didn't kill any children, but firstly, don't think that makes him any nicer than either Damien Bendall or Lucy Letby, and secondly, children are very much involved in his murders. In November 2024, double murderer Marcus Osborne lost his appeal to have his whole life order overturned. Osborne killed his former girlfriend and her new partner in 2023, in the month of May, in Huddersfield, out of sexual jealousy. His ex-girlfriend, a lady called Katie Highton, who was 27, sustained all of 99 injuries in the attack from Osborne, while her new boyfriend, a guy called Mr. Harnett, was mutilated and left with 24 knife wounds. Osborne also raped another woman who he had held captive in the house. This woman, who we'll call V, testified in court that Osborne washed himself between killings because this ordeal took place over a number of hours, and that the man laughed and jeered at what he'd done, and he scrolled through Katie's social media accounts and played voice messages from her phone between her and Mr. Harnett, whose first name is actually Stephen. Some hours later, the man got a neighbour to come to the house to have a look at the dead bodies, and the neighbour testified that Osborne was literally proud of what he'd done. I said children are involved in this story. All the while that this ordeal was taking place, there were 4 children upstairs. When, in early 2024, Judge Christina Lambert gave Marcus Osborne his whole life order, she gave the impression that even that wasn't a good enough punishment for him.
This is a case of such exceptional seriousness that even a very long minimum term would not amount to just punishment. What you did that night was horrific.
In March 2024, when he got his whole life order, Osborne was 35, so hopefully he'll have decades and decades of absolute hell rotting in prison. If this video has gripped you, I recommend you to watch this one next. I'll meet you there.